Joined by Roddy McKenzie. Roddy, thanks a lot for coming on. How are you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. Not bad at all. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm just want to start off by asking you what your early football memories are.
My early football memories are playing with Mill United when I was a wee boy, getting picked up by Hearts when I was 12, and really going through their youth team, and then get 16 and turning professional, and then make my debut. Went on loan to Stennismuir when I was 20, and then came back to Hearts as second choice keeper, and that was the early sort of part of my career up to I was probably about 21, 22. So that was that.
And what's your best memories of coming through at Hearts?
I think that one of the best memories, and most guys will tell you this, that have come through professional football, is the ages of 16, 18, where you're a young boy in a dressing room. You're surrounded by, for a lot of guys, they're heroes who play in the team if they support that team, getting to train alongside them and realising that you were getting paid to play football when all your mates are going to university or bumming around and you're 16-year-old and you're involved in a professional football team. That's the best thing. And if I could tell that to any kid, is that, that's the most important time when you really do all your work, you learn and you realise how privileged it is to be a professional footballer.
Who were the biggest influences at Hearts when you were coming through for you?
We had Henry Smith and Nicky Walker was the two senior goalkeepers there at the time. But even the managers, we had Joe Jordan, Tommy McLean, Sandy Clark, all these guys were vastly experienced in game, and you listen to them, you didn't do what probably a lot of young kids do when they maybe see older gaffers. They just what do you know? The game's changed, but these guys were top players, and then they went on to be good managers, and probably that was the biggest thing, is that you've got to learn. One of the assistant managers, Frank Connor, who was at Hearts, will tell you, he was a great influence on all the guys, and and he really wanted you to work hard and listen. And that was it. That's all these guys ever wanted you to do. It was just work your socks off and then listen. And then also respect the game, but also respect other players as well,
You touched on it there as well, that loan to Stenhousemuir, won the Challenge Cup there. What was the biggest benefits in that loan move for you?
Well, I was sitting at Hearts. I think I was fifth choice goalkeeper. I had just finished playing the under-18s. There was a few goalkeepers in front of us, and there was nowhere for me to play. Reserve football. You've got 3 or 4 goalkeepers in front of you who are going to play first. Your chances of playing were going to be slim. I went the previous year, just when I'd finished under 18s, I went to Blantyre Vicks on loan, which was a local junior team for me. I got loads of experience there, and I also learned that this is not the level I want to play at, which was junior football. You quickly learn that, and you think, I ain't going to be kicking about here. So I played there for a season. The following season I went back, and then, just by chance, Eamon Bannon was kind of at Hearts. Gary Mackay. Eamon Bannon had just left. Gary Mackay was at Hearts, and he was good friends with Terry Christie, and they were looking for a goalkeeper. They were wanting somebody young, somebody a wee bit hungry, rather than just having an old experienced goalie playing in the second division. And I thought it was a great opportunity for me to go. And I was playing with Adrian Sprott, George McGeechy, Eamon Bannon, a whole host of Graham Armstrong, a whole host of senior players in my defence. And just their advice and the way in which they helped you as a young kid coming through was brilliant. And that was ultimately, I went back to Hearts, second choice keeper, signed there the following season, which was great.
Back at Hearts, talk me through your debut there.
My debut, funnily enough, it was my wee boy was asking me this a few weeks ago, and it was against Aberdeen on probably the worst game that's ever been televised by Sky ever. I kid you not, and it's actually somewhere on YouTube because I showed my wee boy it, and it was a windy Monday night. And Big Gilles he'd called off sick. He saw the weather report that night and he was like, I don't fancy going to Aberdeen on a cold Monday night. And I'm sure it was Salvatore wore a sort of waterproof jacket underneath his strip. It was so cold. The wind was howling in, and it was murder. You couldn't kick the ball. It was just so bad, and it was 0-0. And I didn't have that much to do in the whole game, to be brutally honest with you.
Take a clean sheet.
Hey, I'd take a clean sheet any day of the week up at Aberdeen. So, it was a good one for me. Probably away from home in Aberdeen's a good character test for people, and I did all right.
So over 50 appearances for Hearts before joining Livingston. Why Livingston?
To be honest, I would probably say that the goalkeeping coach at the time, Roy Baines, was at Livingston, and he'd always been, when I was at Hearts, he always spoke to me all the time about loads of things. I knew a few of the coaches that were at Livingston, and I'd been let go by Hearts, and I hadn't played the last 6 months of that season because I broke my thumb, so that was me kind of out towards the end of my contract. And then I went and played for Partick Thistle, and I went and trained there pre-season, and then played in a pre-season game with them. And then I spoke to Jerry Collins the next day, and he says, "Listen, we can't afford you." And I says, "Well, you don't even know what I'm looking for." So, and then they brought in a guy for the Faroe Islands. So I was kind of lost. I was kind of just like, you know what, don't know what to do. The financial thing in Scottish football at that time was cut. And I just got a phone call, the following day to say Alan Main's been sent off in a pre-season friendly. I'm not happy with the other boy, Davy McEwen, and to want to come up north. And I says, aye, I've got nothing to lose. I knew Roy, and I knew a few of the coaches, and I knew a few of their players. I thought, aye, why not? Let's go for a wee jolly up to Dingwall and such places. And it was good, a good bunch of guys. And I think when you get let go for a team, sometimes it is a bit of confidence that you just need, and you need a manager to say, you know what, we like what you did before, so why not come and have a bash here? So that was one of the reasons.
Like you say, with confidence there, after being at Hearts for like such a long time, coming through the academy and that, did you feel a wee bit lost once they'd let you go?
I think that Antti Niemi had left Hearts in, I think, August 2002, and I had played from about August to January, and then I got injured in a winter training camp, and I did well. I think that season I did really well. The team were sitting third in the league. We were in the semi-final of the League Cup. I had, my confidence was good. I felt as if Craig Levein says, "Oh, you needed a new challenge." Well, that was my challenge. My challenge was I wanted to stay at Hearts, but obviously managers changed their minds and whatnot. And I think that as a goalkeeper, you can be sort of forgotten about a wee bit if you don't play, and that was always my problem, that I just didn't play enough games when I was at Hearts to really sort of establish myself and probably play there for a few years more. But sometimes you do need to be freshen up, and also just a new idea on a coach, even a coach giving you a few tips, could maybe help you. And I think Roy Baines was definitely the man who saw a few things in my game that helped me. And in that season, I really found a confidence that he gave me, probably more than anyone else.
It worked out really well for you that first season, Scottish Cup semi, and obviously winning the CIS Cup. Livingston's biggest sort of history to date, really.
Yeah, and that's just a bit of luck. Sometimes these things happen for you, sometimes they go against you, and it's about grasping the opportunity and just from that season, I think I ended up playing another 3 seasons at Livingston, and I loved every minute. It was really good. It was a great club. Fans were brilliant, really loyal fans. I know the crowd started to dwindle a little bit, but it's a cracking facility. It's everything about it stems towards a good Premier League team, and it was brilliant to be there.
What's your favourite memories of that day at Hampden?
Oh God. Do you know what? A lot of the boys you speak to, everything was just a blur. See, after that final whistle, I remember we were on a line, and we kind of met just down at my 18-yard box, and we're all in a big light, and we're all just running towards the halfway line. And I think there's a cracking picture of that. But probably one of the best things, having been a Hearts player and Hearts fan for many years, was to see all the Hibs fans just run away after about 5 seconds after the final whistle. And it's quite surreal to have pictures of an empty stand behind you holding a cup, and you just saw this wee bank of Livingston fans in the corner, and that's something that will stick with me. And if you look at the videos, it's funny. It's hilarious to just see how empty the stadium is.
I think it was about 30,000-40,000, kind of 5 or 10,000 there.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Obviously, being part of that team, how good was that team?
I think that they found a good mix of players. Obviously, there was a few players who had been there a few years, a few of the foreign guys, but they had a pretty solid defence. 3 solid defenders, and Big Manu, Oscar, and Marvin, and Jamie on the left and David McNamee on the right. That was pretty much the sort of back 5, back 3 that played the whole season. And when you've got two guys like Jamie and David on either side who can bomb forward, and you get 3 big defenders at the back who, let's not kid ourselves on, didn't take any prisoners at times. They were brutal in the sense that they weren't letting you pass them. And Big Marvin, if you go onto Big Marv, I remember being at Easter Road, we played Hibs. I think it was maybe just after or before the cup final, and Big Marv would bully and wee Scott Brown. And wee Scott Brown was trying to get past him, and Big Marv's just like, wee man out the way. And but that was Marv, Marv just didn't take any crap off anybody. He's just like, get out of the way, this is my ball. And see, as a goalkeeper, having the sort of types of defenders, you knew what they were going to do, which was brilliant, because then I knew what I needed to do and just let them do their job. And don't get me wrong, sometimes it wasn't pretty. Manu and Oscar sliding into tackles, thinking, oh no, here we go. But, you got away with it.
I think the fact that the club was kind of going through like a financial crisis at that point gave yous a bit of extra, I don't know what the word would be, like adrenaline as such.
Yeah, I think we knew how important every result was for the club. Even in the Scottish Cup run we had, we knew we went up to Aberdeen, we drew against Aberdeen, we then played them in Skye the Thursday night, which meant the club got more money. That then meant, I think we beat them, we then played Team Fedham, I can't remember their names, Spartans, I think it was the Spartans, to get into like the quarterfinals of the cup or whatever. And you think every game meant something. Every game was money that the club could then, either pay off the debts or whatever it was going to do it. And we all knew that, but we all knew ourselves that these games are, you don't know what's happening at the end of the season with regards to who owns the club. That person may not like you. You may have to sell players, so you're playing for your own career as well. But predominantly, you're playing for the club. And if the club do well, then players moved on at the end of that season. Because they deserve to move on.
Seeing the club's under that much pressure, what was the atmosphere like in the changing room at that time?
It was really good. I think after the first few weeks of that sort of administration, when people were released, people knew who was being kept on, I think everything else just settled down. We knew there was not a lot we could do, but the administrators were brilliant. They were upfront, honest about everything that was going on, and they said the importance of winning games and fans coming through the door and all that. So the atmosphere and the players were brilliant. It's probably the best team spirit I've ever had, was that sort of squad on that year, because we all socialised together, we all went out, we did stuff, because there was only maybe something like 15 to 20 players, and that was it. After I think they released maybe 6 or 7 or whatever it was. So it wasn't as if it was a massive squad and there was people no involved. Everyone was involved all the time.
See, when you left Livingston the first time, was that kind of forced due to the financial crisis that was ongoing?
It was. To be honest, I had a clause in my contract which said that I'd take a wage cut, but if I could find another club, then I could leave. So I wasn't really given a chance. They obviously wanted me out the door because of the wages I was on, and I managed to get another club. So, I didn't go to I think the team went to Ireland on a pre-season trip, and I wasn't taken. I was left behind. So that kind of knew that, oh well, here we go. That's me. I'm going to be either kicked out the door or played in the reserves, or whatever. And that was my choice. I had a choice to stay and take the wage cut or try and find another club. So I chose to find another club.
How tough was that after all the success that you had at Livy?
It was, but business is business, and I'm just another number, just another player. And if they were probably looking to free up my wages to bring in a couple of players, and I totally get it. I'm not naive enough to sit here and say that I would have been at Livingston all my days, but I understand how business works, and at least it's a difficult one, because I wasn't very happy at the time about the way it was conducted. That's all I'll say, but I understand it.
So you returned a few years later under the Italian ownership. How much of a difference was that? Because I've always heard before there was a massive cultural change in that as well.
Yeah, it was. I've been out of the game for maybe a year at that point, and I was on holiday with my wife, and I got a phone call saying this Italian goalkeeper, French goalkeeper's left Livingston, and they need a goalkeeper quick. I hadn't trained. I hadn't done a single thing for almost a year. I'd actually done some triathlons and that sort of stuff. So my fitness was good. It was just a different types of fitness. And I had no intention to go back to play football, actually. And I spoke to my wife, and she says, "Why don't you just go for it?" I said, "That's fine." So I turned up, and first day of training, this mad Italian owner turned up with his pinstripe suit on and his sparkly shoes, walking across the grass, and I was like, "Oh, here we go." So, he was more than pleasant. He was nice enough, and everyone I think got taken in with him at the start. Everyone thought, "Oh, what a guy! He's got good plans, good ambitions." And then I'd signed a contract. Queen of the South would want to sign me for. They were playing in Europe that year, and their goalkeeper got injured, and they wanted to sign me. And I sort of told a wee porcupine to the manager. I says, "Listen, I'm going to go and sign for Queen of the South, but if you want, this is Roberta Landi. Says if you want me to sign, you need to go and speak to the chairman, because right now there's a game tomorrow night, and I need to be registered by 5 o'clock." So he went and spoke to the chairman. I got pulled in. He wanted to give me a year's contract, and I says, "No, make it 2. And we'll cut a deal." So he did. He made it 2 years, and I was quite happy. And I thought, happy days. So, because at the end of the day, you're a wee bit more security, and then obviously all the fun started about a month later with Evan. So, that was funny.
Have you got any mental stories of him maybe coming in the dressing room after games or anything like that?
No, not really. Just I remember it was all starting to kick off with a few of the foreign players. Their rent wasn't getting paid for the house they lived in, and because I was on the PFA at the time, they came to me and says, "Listen, what can we do?" And I spoke to Fraser Wisher. I says, "Listen, we need to meet with these guys because they're going to get chucked out their house." And so Fraser came through. We met them at Deer Park. Told them, "Listen, try and sort this out. Try and speak to the club." And then I got hauled into a meeting with the manager at the time, who was Paul Hegarty, I think, and Dave McKenzie. And the chairman's banging on the table saying, "You cannot speak to the PFA." And I says, "I can speak to who I want. I'm the PFA rep, so you can't stop people from speaking to your union, all that sort of stuff." And I think that he just wanted to be he was just a big bully. And normally when they're struggling, you see these guys for what they are. And you could see this guy who was clearly panicking, had no money, thought he could just sell clauses and players' contracts and sell on fees and pay the debts and pay the wages. And eventually it just all got too much for him. And the Sharks started chasing him for it. So
I think at the time as well, he was promising a first he was promising the fans first division Livingston were going to be Scotland's third force in that as well.
Yeah.
Which,
you know what? Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong
no,
with
there isn't.
imagining it. You know, every manager or every chairman that takes over a club, you want to say to the fans, you know, we want to be as high as possible, and you know, fair play, but at least back it up and don't try and screw the players and pay their wages. Make sure you pay their wages. So you know,
Did the dressing room at that time become a bit disjointed because of, obviously, like you're saying, the foreign players, for example, how unhappy they were?
You know, it didn't become disjointed among the players. It just became a really sort of probably dead tense, in that, you know, players were talking on Fridays about no playing on a Saturday because we were getting paid 2 weeks late, you know. And I think I remember we were playing Ross County one Saturday, and all the players had said, right, we're not playing tomorrow. We're now maybe, I think it's 10 days for being paid on time. And this was constant, you know, and players had mortgages. The young boys, you know, it didn't really affect the young boys that much in the sense, but, you know, when you've got your house and all your bills and all that need paid, you know, you're going to lose your house if you don't pay your bills. Simple as that. So a lot of the older players, you know, had to put a stand together and say, listen, we're not playing unless the money is in here by 3 o'clock today. We're not playing tomorrow. And it was, you know, one day it went in one Friday afternoon, and I suppose that's what you've got to do. You know, as a player, you've got to stand up. Got to stand up for yourself, but also standing up for your teammates and making sure. I know that they were trying to threaten some of the young boys at that time with, you know, you're not going to get a new contract next year. Just say everything's all right. Say everything's fine at the club and whatnot. And you know, all these older players are trying to help the young boys, and you know, it was a horrible time. It really was, and you know, I think that a lot of people should be ashamed of what happened at that time. You know,
Leaving Livy again, was that forced again because of that crisis as well?
Nah, that was the right thing at the time. That was, you know, we get relegated to the third division. I came through that season. I think we won the league by, I don't know how many points, X amount of clean sheets. That was the right time for me to go as well. You know, they were trying to cut their costs again. You know, but a lot of the players had been on first division wages, if you want to call it, playing the third division. And to be honest, you could have probably stuck any goalie in that team that year and would have won the league, no bother. So why pay an experienced goalie to play in that league when you could bring you through your young boys? And to be fair, I think that was the best thing they could have done. And then they brought in, I think it was Tony Bullock for the next year, and you know, I was like, oh, what? That's the manager's mate. I come in and play. All right, okay. So, but that was fine. You know what? It was probably a good time. I think the last game I played for Livingston was against Berwick, and I saved the penalty that won the league. So, I can't argue with that, can I? Do you know what I mean? And it was good because it gave young Dan Jameson and Craig McDowell at the end of that season a few games to show the manager whether they were deserving of a contract or not. And you know, when I spoke to Gary Boland, I says, listen, I'm not playing again this season. I've done my job. You're not going to renew my contract, so I'm quite happy to let these boys in. I'm not a guy that doesn't allow young players to get in and play. You know, I mean, I know when the right time, because that happened to me when I was at Hearts. I was allowed to play the last few games of the season when everyone was secure, and it just gives you a wee bit of confidence as well. So,
how would you sum up your 2 spells at Livingston? Hectic.
No, I loved it. It was never a dull moment. There was never a season where we just sat in the middle of the table and that was it. You know, I would say that it was 4 seasons. They were all. It was like summer, winter, autumn, and spring all in a winner. But you know what? It was great. It was a different time to when I was a young boy at Hearts. But I would definitely say that Livingston, that was the most fun, even though it was a bit more stressful at times. But you know, that's the way it is.
If it's all right with you, Roddy, we'll finish off with the quick fire questions.
Right, go for it.
So, your best mate in football?
Stephen Simmons. played with Hearts, travelled through all Hearts together.
The best stadium you've played in?
Or I would say the old Wembley when I played with the Scotland schoolboys when I was 15.
The best player you've played against?
That's a tough one. I'm going to say Gaza.
Your biggest achievement in football?
Playing for 20 years.
The biggest moaner that you've played with?
Biggest moaner? Oh, man. That's a tough one, by the way, because there's millions. There is millions. You know, there was a guy that was called Ian Baird. My first sort of experience of a rock hard centre forward. He was at Hearts when I was a young kid, and he gave Alan McManus Chalky the hardest time in the world because all his gear, Chalky, where's my gear? Where's me? And he moaned, and he could play, which also helped.
The funniest teammate you've had?
Funniest teammate? Oh God, millions, honestly. You know what? Davy McNamee was hilarious. There was a lot of things that he did that was just stupid. And I always remember at the cup final, he rode that bike around the stadium at Ammonville. He's probably right up there, I think. And
lastly, your best five-a-side team, your players you've played with and why? You can put yourself in if you want.
Nah, I'm not going to put myself in that. I would go with Gilles Rousset as the goalie, right? Because he would definitely fill the five-a-side goal, right? But when he came to Hearts, he made some amount of saves. Amazing, unbelievable player. And a guy I learned a lot of when I was a young guy at Hearts. And then obviously, that's a tough one. I would say Pasquale Bruno, who came to Hearts when I was a young boy as well. Centre half, played with AC Milan and all that. Cool as a cucumber on the ball. Brilliant, great first touch. Everything about it was just sensational, you know, and really nice guy. Right, there's my centre half. I'd go a centre midfielder. Who'd I go for a centre midfielder?
There's a few options in there as well, to be fair.
Oh, there is. I'll come back to that, right? I'll go striker. Go striker first. We'll go John Robertson.
That's a good shout.
Got to be Hearts' top goal scorer. Honestly, lethal. And you know, me and him used to spend hours and hours before games shooting and all that sort of stuff. And I played in a game where he broke the record against Rangers when the goal scoring record. So brilliant, honestly, really nice guy. Obviously, big connection to Livingston as well. And who else would I have? God,
going for another striker.
I'm not sure of my formation. I think people can just float and do it.
It's a bit top heavy, but that's fine.
I would probably go with I'd go with Jamie McAllister on the left.
That's definitely a good shout, that.
You know, that gives a good balance to my left side, and he likes a wee tackle and five-a-sides, so he'd be a good one on the left. And
back onto the centre mids.
I would go. Many have I go? I've got one more yet. I'm going centre half, left side, right side, forward. I'm going to go right side. I'm going to go with Davy McNamee. Honestly, can't see past those two.
A great backline,
that's my top four. Really good guys I played with, and you know, I think that would be a tough five-a-side team to beat. You know.
Well, Roddy, top man, thanks a lot for coming on. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.